Officer Liam Coleman thought it was a routine traffic stop until he noticed the faint whimper from the back seat. When he saw the puppy trembling inside, his face turned pale. What could have driven such desperation and fear into this tiny creature? Every day, Officer Liam Coleman patrolled the highways of Ridgefield, a quiet town surrounded by rolling hills and dense forests. Known for his dedication and sharp instincts, Liam had seen his fair share of unusual traffic stops. But nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to encounter that crisp autumn afternoon. It all began with a faint glimmer of suspicion. A rusted blue sedan sped past a stop sign, its tires skidding slightly on the damp pavement. Liam, parked a few meters away, instinctively reached for his lights and siren. Routine traffic violations were common, but this car exuded something more, a sense of urgency that Liam couldn't ignore. As he pulled the car over, his hand rested lightly on his holster, a precaution drilled into him by years of training. Approaching the driver's side window, he noticed the nervous hands of the driver gripping the wheel tightly. The man avoided eye contact, his posture stiff and guarded. "Good afternoon," Liam began, his tone firm but professional. "Do you know why I stopped you?" Before the driver could respond, a faint, high-pitched whimper drifted from the back seat. Well, it was so soft that Liam almost missed it. But then it came again, a desperate, heart-wrenching sound that sent a chill down his spine. Liam's eyes flicked to the back window, his heart pounding with a sudden sense of urgency. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A small, frail puppy was huddled in the back seat, its fur matted and dirty, trembling uncontrollably. The poor creature's ribs were visible beneath its thin coat, and its wide, frightened eyes locked onto Liam's with a silent plea for help. The officer's mind raced. Why was the puppy in such a condition? And why did the driver seem so nervous? A swirl of possibilities flooded his thoughts, each more alarming than the last. "Sir," Liam said, his voice sharper now, "step out of the vehicle." As the man hesitated, Liam's hand tightened on his belt. Something about this situation was deeply wrong, and Liam knew he was about to uncover a truth that would shake him to his core. Liam's instincts kicked in as he stood by the driver's side of the car. The driver, a wiry man in his late 40s with sunken eyes and unkempt hair, hesitated for a moment too long before finally stepping out of the vehicle. His movements were jittery, his gaze darting between Liam and the trembling puppy in the back seat. "Sir, please step to the front of the car," Liam instructed, his voice calm but firm. He gestured for the man to place his hands on the hood. The driver complied, though his reluctance was evident. "What's in the back seat?" Liam asked, keeping his tone measured. "It's just a dog," the man mumbled, his voice barely audible. I was going to take it to the shelter." Liam's eyes narrowed. Something wasn't adding up. He stepped closer to the car and peered through the back window. The puppy whimpered again, curling further into itself as if trying to disappear. Its frail body shook visibly, and its breathing was shallow and uneven. The officer's chest tightened. He had seen animal neglect before, but there was something uniquely heartbreaking about this tiny creature's condition. The puppy's fur was patchy, covered in dirt and what looked like dried blood. A makeshift collar made of twine was tied around its neck, cutting into its skin. Liam turned back to the driver. "You were taking it to the shelter," he repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Yes," the man said quickly, his words spilling out in a rush. "I found it on the side of the road. I didn't know what else to do." Liam raised an eyebrow, studying the man's demeanor. His story didn't match his body language. The man avoided eye contact, shifting uncomfortably under Liam's scrutiny. "Do you have any paperwork for the dog? Vaccination records?" "Proof of adoption?" Liam asked, already suspecting the answer. The man shook his head. "No, like I said, I just found it." Liam's gaze hardened. "Then why is the dog in this condition? If you were helping it, why is it malnourished and injured?" The man's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Liam could see the panic rising in his eyes. At that moment, Liam made a decision. He reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Coleman. I need animal control and backup at my location. Possible case of animal neglect and abuse." The driver's head snapped up, and he stammered, "Wait, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like." Liam's patience was wearing thin. "Then explain it to me," he said, his tone sharp. "Because right now it looks like you've been mistreating this animal." The man's shoulders slumped, and he muttered something under his breath that Liam couldn't quite catch. Before Liam could press him further, the man suddenly bolted, breaking into a sprint toward the nearby woods. "Stop!" Liam shouted, immediately giving chase. The driver was fast, but Liam's training and determination gave him the edge. Within moments, he tackled the man to the ground, pinning him down as he called for backup again. "Why did you run?" Liam demanded, his breath coming in short bursts. The man didn't answer, his face pressed into the dirt. By the time backup arrived, Liam had the man handcuffed and sitting on the side of the road. Another officer began questioning him, but Liam's focus returned to the puppy. He gently opened the car door and reached inside, speaking softly to avoid startling the terrified animal. "Hey, buddy," Liam murmured. "It's okay now, you're safe." The puppy flinched at first but didn't resist as Liam carefully lifted it into his arms. The poor creature was lighter than he expected, its tiny body limp with exhaustion. Up close, Liam could see the extent of its injuries, bruises along its ribs, cuts on its paws, and a raw wound on its neck from the tight twine. Liam's heart ached. He cradled the puppy against his chest, shielding it from the cold wind as he walked it to his patrol car. Animal control arrived shortly after, and Liam briefed them on the situation. "This little guy needs immediate medical attention," Liam told the officer from Animal Control, a woman named Sarah. "I don't think he has much time." Sarah nodded, her expression grim. "We'll take him to the nearest vet. Thank you for stepping in, Officer Coleman." As Sarah carefully placed the puppy into a carrier, Liam felt a surge of relief, but also a lingering sense of anger. How could someone treat an innocent creature with such cruelty? Meanwhile, the driver was being taken into custody. Under questioning, he admitted that the puppy hadn't been found by the side of the road. It had been part of an illegal breeding operation he was involved in. The operation had been shut down months earlier, but he had kept the puppy, intending to sell it. When he realized the authorities were closing in, he panicked and tried to get rid of the evidence. Liam's blood boiled as he listened to the confession. This wasn't just a case of neglect, it was part of a much larger and darker issue. But now, thanks to Justice's perseverance and the quick response from law enforcement, the puppy had a chance at a new life. As Liam watched the animal control vehicle disappear down the road, carrying the fragile puppy to safety, he felt a wave of emotions crash over him: relief, anger, and a deep sense of purpose. But there was no time to dwell on it. The driver's confession had opened a door to something much larger than a single case of neglect. Liam knew he had stumbled upon the remnants of an illegal breeding operation, and he couldn't let it end with just one arrest. Back at the station, Liam reviewed the evidence gathered from the traffic stop. The man had been carrying a small notebook, which contained cryptic notes, phone numbers, and addresses. Most of it seemed mundane, but one entry caught Liam's attention. "Drop-off point, Warehouse RD." The note was scrawled hastily, as if written in a rush. Liam showed the notebook to his captain, who immediately authorized further investigation. "This could be the lead we need to crack a larger operation," the captain said, his tone serious. "But we'll need to approach this carefully," Liam agreed. He spent the next few hours coordinating with detectives and animal control, piecing together the fragments of information. The driver, now in custody, reluctantly admitted under pressure that the warehouse mentioned in the notebook had been used as a meeting point for transactions related to the breeding ring. While the operation had largely been dismantled months earlier, some members had evaded capture, and Liam suspected they were still active. The following evening, Liam and a team of officers prepared for a covert operation to investigate the warehouse. They moved under the cover of darkness, their vehicles parked discreetly a block away. As they approached the building, a faint light could be seen flickering through the cracks in the dilapidated walls. Liam's heart pounded as they moved closer. He signaled for the team to spread out, surrounding the building to ensure no one could escape. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified in the stillness of the night. "On my signal," Liam whispered into his radio. 3, 2, 1. The team burst through the entrance, flashlights slicing through the darkness. Inside, The scene was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Rows of cages lined the walls, each one housing animals in varying states of neglect. Puppies, their eyes wide with fear, cowered in corners, while older dogs barked weakly, their voices hoarse from exhaustion. Liam's stomach turned as he took in the sight. The stench of filth and despair was overwhelming. He spotted a clipboard hanging on the wall, detailing transactions and shipments, evidence that could be crucial in dismantling the remaining network. As the officers began freeing the animals, they heard the sound of footsteps above. Someone was still in the building. Liam and another officer raced up the stairs, their weapons drawn. At the top, they found a man frantically trying to escape through a broken window. "Stop!" Liam commanded, his voice echoing through the empty space. The man froze, his hands raised in surrender. "Turn around slowly and get on the ground," Liam ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. The man complied, and within moments, he was handcuffed and led downstairs. Back on the main floor, animal control teams had arrived to assist with the rescue effort. The animals, though frightened, were being gently coaxed out of their cages and into waiting vehicles. Liam noticed one particular puppy, a tiny black and white ball of fur, staring at him with wide, pleading eyes. It reminded him of the puppy from the traffic stop, and his heart clenched. "Officer Coleman," called Sarah, the animal control officer he'd worked with earlier. "We've got a full house here. Thanks for calling us in." Liam nodded. "What's the status on the puppy from yesterday?" Sarah smiled. "He's doing better. The vet said he'll need some time to recover, but he's strong. You'd be surprised what resilience these little ones have." Relief washed over Liam. At least one life had already been saved, and now dozens more would have a chance at a new beginning. As the team secured the building and gathered evidence, Liam couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of the situation. The people involved in this operation had treated these animals as commodities, showing no regard for their suffering. It was a stark reminder of the darker side of human nature, but also of the importance of standing up for those who couldn't defend themselves. The rescued animals were transported to shelters and veterinary clinics, where they would receive the care they so desperately needed. Liam stayed behind to oversee the final stages of the operation, ensuring that every piece of evidence was documented and every corner of the warehouse was searched. By the time the operation was complete, dawn was breaking over Ridgefield. The first rays of sunlight illuminated the quiet streets, a stark contrast to the chaos of the night. Liam sat in his patrol car, exhausted but fulfilled. He had no doubt that this was only the beginning of a much larger investigation, but for now, he allowed himself a moment of gratitude. He thought of the puppy he had rescued the day before, imagining it safe and warm in the care of the veterinary team. That small life, trembling in the back seat of a car, had led to the rescue of countless others. It was a reminder that even the smallest actions could spark a ripple effect of change. So a week had passed since the raid on the warehouse, and Officer Liam Coleman had thrown himself into the investigation with renewed determination. The evidence collected, ledgers, transaction records, and the testimony of the man arrested at the scene had painted a disturbing picture of the scale of the illegal breeding operation. But it wasn't until he received a call from Sarah, the animal control officer, that the case took a turn Liam never anticipated. "Liam," Sarah said, her voice filled with urgency, "you need to come down to the clinic. It's about the puppy from the traffic stop." Liam's heart skipped a beat. "Is he okay?" he asked, already grabbing his keys and heading for the door. "He's fine, but there's something you need to see. I'll explain when you get here." 15 minutes later, Liam walked into the clinic, greeted by the familiar sounds of barking and the smell of disinfectant. Sarah met him in the lobby, her expression serious but tinged with a hint of excitement. "Follow me," she said, leading him down a hallway to a private examination room. Inside, the puppy, now cleaned up and looking slightly healthier, was resting in a padded crate. But it wasn't the puppy that caught Liam's attention. It was the folder Sarah was holding. "What's going on?" Liam asked, his brow furrowed. Sarah opened the folder and handed him a series of photographs. "We ran some tests on the puppy, standard procedure to check for any underlying health issues or genetic markers. And, well, we found something unusual." Liam studied the photographs. They showed close-ups of the puppy's coat, but under a special type of lighting, faint markings appeared on its skin, patterns that looked almost like a brand or tattoo. Liam's stomach churned. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low. "It's a marker," Sarah explained. "We've seen this before in cases involving high-end animal trafficking rings. Some breeders use these marks to identify specific litters or bloodlines. It's like a signature. But this one," she paused, flipping to another photo. "This one matches a ring we've been investigating for years. They're notorious for breeding rare and exotic animals, often in horrific conditions." Liam's grip on the photos tightened. "So you're saying this puppy is connected to a larger network?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly. And the fact that he ended up in that car means we're closer to that network than we've ever been." Liam's mind raced as he processed the information. The driver from the traffic stop had claimed he was trying to get rid of the puppy because he feared being caught. But now it was clear that the puppy wasn't just a victim of neglect. It was a key piece of evidence in a much larger and more sinister operation. "We need to track this," Liam said, his tone firm. "If this marker matches their network, then there has to be a way to trace it back to the source," Sarah agreed. "I've already contacted a specialist who works with law enforcement on cases like this. She's an expert in decoding these markers and tracing their origins. She'll be here tomorrow." The following day, Liam returned to the clinic to meet the specialist, Dr. Elena Marquez, a forensic veterinarian with years of experience investigating animal trafficking. Dr. Marquez examined the photos and confirmed Sarah's findings. "This marker is unique to a breeder we've been trying to shut down for years," Dr. Marquez explained. "They're based overseas but operate through a network of intermediaries. The fact that this puppy is here means the network is active in this region." Liam's jaw clenched. "Do we have any leads on where they might be operating locally?" Dr. Marquez hesitated. "The markers give us a starting point, but we'll need more evidence to pinpoint their current operations. However, I can tell you this, if this puppy is part of their network, then it's likely there are more animals being trafficked as we speak." That evening, Liam sat at his desk, poring over the evidence. The realization that the puppy he had rescued was part of a massive illegal operation weighed heavily on him. But it also gave him a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about one animal. It was about dismantling a system that thrived on cruelty and exploitation. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He opened the file containing the notes and addresses found in the driver's notebook. One address in particular stood out, a location listed simply as Site B. It was circled in red ink with a note beside it, "Last shipment." Liam's pulse quickened. Could this be another drop-off point? Or perhaps a storage location for the trafficked animals? Without wasting a moment, Liam called his captain. "I think I've found something," he said. "We need to check out this address." The next morning, Liam and a small team of officers arrived at the address. It was an unassuming property on the outskirts of town, a large, run-down barn surrounded by overgrown grass. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and the distant sound of barking sent chills down Liam's spine. "Stay alert," Liam instructed his team as they approached the barn. Inside, the scene was hauntingly similar to the warehouse they had raided days earlier. Rows of cages lined the walls, some empty, others housing animals in various states of distress. But this time, there was something even more disturbing. In the center of the barn, a table was covered in documents, photographs, and what appeared to be a ledger detailing sales and shipments. Liam's eyes scanned the pages, and his heart sank as he recognized some of the addresses, locations across multiple states, each tied to the trafficking network. "This is it," Liam said, his voice filled with determination. "This is the break we've been waiting for." The discovery of the barn and its disturbing contents had shaken Liam and his team. As the evidence was meticulously documented and the animals rescued, the reality of what they had uncovered began to set in. This was no small operation. It was an intricate network that stretched far beyond Ridgefield, and the ledger found in the barn provided the first concrete glimpse into its scope. Back at the station, Liam sat with the captain and the lead detectives, going over the evidence. The ledger was filled with cryptic codes and symbols, making it clear that whoever ran this operation was experienced in covering their tracks. However, a few entries stood out, references to Shipment Alpha and Client 7, along with a date and time scheduled just 3 days away. "This could be our chance," Liam said, tapping the ledger. "If we can figure out where this shipment is happening, we might be able to catch them in the act." The captain nodded. "It's a good lead, but we need to tread carefully. Whoever's behind this isn't going to let their operation go down without a fight." Over the next 48 hours, the team worked tirelessly to decode the ledger and piece together the puzzle. Doctor. Elena Marquez returned to assist, using her expertise to cross-reference the codes with known trafficking patterns. Her analysis revealed that Shipment Alpha likely referred to a collection point near the state border, a secluded area often used for discreet exchanges. Meanwhile, Sarah, the animal control officer, worked alongside Liam to ensure the rescued animals from the barn were receiving care. Among them was the puppy from the original traffic stop, now affectionately named Chance by the clinic staff. Despite his traumatic beginnings, Chance showed remarkable resilience, his playful demeanor bringing a glimmer of hope to an otherwise grim situation. Liam visited the clinic one evening, exhausted but determined. He crouched down by Chance's crate, letting the puppy lick his hand. "You started all this, didn't you?" Liam said softly, a small smile breaking through his fatigue. "We're going to make sure they can't hurt anyone else." As the day of the scheduled shipment approached, tensions ran high. The team devised a plan to intercept the operation at the drop-off point, coordinating with local and federal authorities to ensure they had the resources needed for a successful sting. Liam was at the center of it all, his resolve unwavering. On the morning of the operation, Liam briefed his team one final time. "We've got one shot at this," he said, his voice steady but firm. "These people have slipped through the cracks for too long. Let's make sure that ends today." The drop-off point was a desolate stretch of land near an abandoned quarry surrounded by dense woods. The team arrived hours in advance, setting up surveillance and positioning themselves for the takedown. Hidden among the trees, Liam watched through binoculars as the minutes ticked by, his adrenaline building with every passing second. Finally, a convoy of trucks appeared on the horizon, their headlights cutting through the early morning fog. Liam signaled to his team, everyone ready to move at a moment's notice. The trucks came to a stop near a cluster of storage containers, and men began unloading cages, some filled with animals, others ominously empty. "This is it," Liam whispered into his radio. "Everyone in position, wait for my signal." As the men continued their work, another vehicle pulled up, a sleek black SUV. A well-dressed man stepped out, his demeanor calm and authoritative. He approached the workers, barking orders and inspecting the cages. Liam's gut told him this was someone important, likely a key figure in the operation. The tension reached its peak as Liam gave the order to move. Officers emerged from their hiding spots, weapons drawn, shouting commands for the suspects to freeze. The scene erupted into chaos as some of the men tried to flee, only to be quickly apprehended by the perimeter teams. Liam zeroed in on the man from the SUV, who stood frozen for a moment before attempting to retreat into the vehicle. "Stop!" Liam shouted, his voice cutting through the commotion. The man hesitated, then raised his hands in surrender. As the suspects were detained and the area secured, Liam's team began inspecting the cargo. The animals, though frightened and malnourished, were alive. It was a small victory in an otherwise dark operation. Among the cages, Liam spotted something that stopped him in his tracks, a crate marked with the same symbol as the one found on Chance. Inside was a litter of puppies, all bearing the same faint markings on their skin. It was a chilling reminder of how many lives had been caught in this web of cruelty. Back at the station, the aftermath of the operation unfolded. The suspects were interrogated, their connections to the trafficking network gradually coming to light. The ledger, combined with the evidence from the barn and the drop-off point, provided a roadmap for dismantling the organization piece by piece. For Liam, the work was far from over. The rescued animals needed care, the case required follow-up, and the network's higher-ups were still out there. But for the first time, he felt a sense of momentum, a belief that they could truly make a difference. With the drop-off point raid behind them, Liam's team had achieved a significant victory, but it was clear this was only the tip of the iceberg. The suspects detained at the scene had revealed little during initial questioning, their loyalty to the operation apparently strong. However, the evidence collected, particularly the ledger, suggested a much broader and more dangerous network. One detail from the raid stuck with Liam: the litter of puppies marked with the same symbol as Chance. Though relieved they had been rescued, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that their existence hinted at something even more sinister. What if these animals were more than just victims of illegal breeding? What if they were part of an experiment or a larger scheme? The next day, Dr. Elena Marquez visited the station with new findings about the markings on the puppies. "Liam," she began, laying out several documents on the table, "these symbols aren't just random. They appear to be part of a coded system used by this network." Liam leaned in, studying the papers. "What kind of system?" Dr. Marquez pointed to one of the symbols. "This specific marker indicates lineage. It's common in high-end animal trafficking rings, where certain breeds are bred for exclusive buyers. But this one," she pointed to another, more intricate symbol. "This is different. It suggests a genetic alteration or enhancement." Liam's eyes widened. "Are you saying these animals have been tampered with?" Dr. Marquez nodded gravely. "It's highly likely. Genetic testing on Chance and the other puppies revealed slight anomalies, nothing harmful to their health, but enough to suggest they were being bred for very specific traits. Strength, endurance, intelligence. It's as if someone was trying to create a super breed." The revelation opened a new chapter in the investigation. If the trafficking network was involved in genetic experimentation, it meant their operations extended beyond just breeding and selling animals. It was about creating something entirely new. This development raised the stakes, and Liam knew they couldn't afford to lose momentum. But the investigation faced its first major setback. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the suspects detained from the drop-off point refused to cooperate further. Their silence was frustrating, but not surprising. It was clear they feared whoever was behind the operation more than the law. Liam's captain suggested focusing on the evidence instead. "If we can't get them to talk, we'll let the evidence do the talking," he said, assigning a forensic team to analyze the seized items. The team worked tirelessly, uncovering a list of encrypted contacts and shipments that hinted at multiple locations across the country. As Liam delved deeper into the case, he also found himself grappling with the emotional toll of the work. The images of the rescued animals, many of them malnourished and terrified, haunted him. But amidst the darkness, there were moments of light. Chance, the puppy who had unknowingly triggered this entire investigation, was thriving under the care of Sarah and the clinic staff. Liam often visited, finding solace in the puppy's playful energy. During one visit, Sarah shared a touching moment. "You know," she said, scratching behind Chance's ears, "this little guy has become a symbol of hope for everyone here. It's amazing how one act of kindness, stopping that car, led to all this." Liam smiled, the weight on his shoulders momentarily lifting. "He's a fighter," he said, "and he reminds me why we're doing this." The investigation took an unexpected turn when Liam received a tip from a confidential informant. The informant claimed to have knowledge of a high-level meeting between members of the trafficking network, set to take place in a remote warehouse 2 states over. The meeting was reportedly to discuss the future of their operations in light of the recent raids. Though the tip was risky, unverified and potentially a trap, Liam knew they couldn't ignore it. After consulting with his captain, they decided to proceed with caution, assembling a small team to surveil the meeting and gather intelligence. On the night of the operation, Liam and his team arrived at the warehouse under the cover of darkness. The building was dilapidated, surrounded by overgrown vegetation and eerily quiet. From their vantage point, they watched as vehicles began to arrive, each one bringing individuals who exuded an air of authority. Through binoculars, Liam observed the gathering inside. A group of men and women, all dressed in sharp suits, sat around a large table discussing documents and maps. Among them was a figure who immediately caught Liam's attention, a man with a commanding presence, whom Liam recognized from a photograph found in the barn during the initial raid. "That's him," Liam whispered into his radio. "The one from the ledger. He's running this operation." The team remained hidden, documenting everything they could, but as the meeting progressed, the situation took a dangerous turn. One of the traffickers stepped outside for a cigarette, his eyes scanning the perimeter. Liam and his team held their breath, praying their cover wouldn't be blown. The man's gaze lingered near their position, but after a tense moment, he shrugged and returned inside. The close call was a stark reminder of the risks involved, but it also reinforced their determination to bring these people to justice. As the meeting concluded, the traffickers began to disperse. Liam's team captured photographs of their license plates and vehicles, gathering crucial evidence to track their movements. Back at the station, the information was compiled into a comprehensive report, laying the groundwork for a broader investigation. The deeper Liam delved into the case, the more it began to weigh on him personally. The discovery of genetic experimentation, coupled with the sheer cruelty inflicted on the animals, had stirred a storm of emotions within him. This wasn't just about enforcing the law anymore, it was about morality, humanity, and the responsibility he felt to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Late one evening, Liam found himself at the clinic again, sitting in the quiet room where Chance slept. The puppy had grown visibly stronger, his playful demeanor a stark contrast to the vulnerable state he'd been in during the initial traffic stop. Liam reached into the crate and gently scratched behind Chance's ears. "You have no idea how much you've changed everything," he said softly. "Because of you, we're finally getting closer to the truth." Sarah, who had been organizing supplies nearby, overheard him and smiled. "You know, I think Chance was meant to find you," she said, pulling up a chair beside Liam. "Sometimes, the smallest beings have the biggest impact." Liam chuckled lightly, but didn't respond. He couldn't shake the guilt that lingered beneath his gratitude, guilt for not having stopped this network sooner, for the lives that had already been lost, and for the weight of the responsibility he now carried. As the investigation progressed, tensions within the team began to surface. The enormity of the case, combined with the pressure to dismantle the operation, created friction among the officers. One afternoon, during a strategy meeting, tempers flared. "We're chasing ghosts," one detective exclaimed, slamming his fist on the table. "We've got fragments of evidence and no solid leads. Meanwhile, these people are probably moving their operations as we speak." Liam remained calm but firm. "Every piece of evidence we've gathered points to something bigger. If we back off now, we lose the only chance we have to stop them." Another officer chimed in. "And what if this informant's tip was a setup? What if we're walking into a trap next time? We are putting our lives on the line based on assumptions." The room fell silent as Liam's gaze swept across the team. "I get it," he said finally. "This isn't easy. But think about what's at stake. Those animals, the lives ruined by this operation. If we don't act, who will?" His words struck a chord, and though the tension remained, the team rallied behind him. They couldn't afford to let fear or doubt cloud their judgment, not when the stakes were this high. Amid the chaos of the case, Liam also faced personal struggles. His late nights and long hours had begun to strain his relationship with his younger sister, Maggie, who often babysat his daughter, Emma. Maggie had been supportive, but her patience was wearing thin. "You're barely home, Liam," Maggie said one evening as she handed Emma over to him. "Emma misses you, and honestly, so do I. You're not the only one juggling everything." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know, Maggie. I'm sorry. This case, it's bigger than I thought. I'm trying to balance everything, but it's taking over your life," Maggie interrupted. "I get that your job is important, but you can't lose yourself in it. Emma needs her dad, not just a hero." Her words hit Liam harder than he expected. That night, as he tucked Emma into bed, he couldn't help but feel torn. The case demanded so much of him, but his family deserved his time and attention too. For the first time in weeks, he began to question whether he was stretching himself too thin. The emotional toll extended to the animals as well. Chance's progress was a source of joy, but many of the other rescued animals were still struggling to recover. One particularly haunting case involved a dog named Luna, who had been found severely malnourished and scarred. Despite the team's best efforts, Luna remained distant, her trust in humans shattered. Sarah shared updates with Liam during his visits, her voice tinged with sadness. "Luna's case breaks my heart," she said one evening. "She's physically healing, but emotionally, I don't know if she'll ever recover. It's like she's given up." Liam watched as Luna lay curled in the corner of her crate, her eyes distant. "She's been through hell," he said quietly, "but she's still here. That says something, doesn't it?" Sarah nodded. "It does. But I just wish there was more we could do." Their conversation left Liam feeling both inspired and helpless. For every victory, there were countless scars, both visible and hidden, that couldn't be undone. It was a reminder of how high the stakes truly were. As the team prepared for their next move, Liam wrestled with the emotional weight of the case. The pressure, the guilt, and the uncertainty were a constant presence, but so was the hope. The animals they had rescued, the lives they had saved, it all fueled his determination to see this through. One evening, as he reviewed the case files alone in his office, Liam received a text from Sarah. It was a photo of Chance, sitting proudly with a small chew toy in his mouth. The caption read, "Your little hero ready for action." Liam smiled. The photo a much-needed reminder of why he was fighting so hard. He may have been weighed down by doubt and fear, but he wasn't alone. There were lives depending on him, both human and animal, and he wouldn't let them down. As Liam and his team pushed forward with the investigation, the stakes continued to rise. The informant's tip about the network's leadership had provided a valuable lead, but with every step closer to the truth, the danger became more palpable. The traffickers were not only elusive but also ruthless, and their operations stretched far beyond what Liam had initially imagined. Late one evening, as Liam sifted through the evidence in his office, his phone buzzed with a message from the forensic team. It was a photograph of a symbol, one that had been engraved onto the inside of a metal container found at the drop-off point. Liam's stomach sank as he recognized it, the same symbol that had been tattooed onto the ears of the rescued puppies. Attached to the message was a note. The engraving matches markings found in a raid on an exotic animal trafficking ring 5 years ago. The case went cold after the suspects disappeared. Liam leaned back in his chair, the weight of the discovery settling over him. This wasn't just about genetic experimentation or high-end trafficking. It was about an organization with a history of evading justice. And now, it seemed they were back, operating on an even larger scale. The next morning, Liam gathered his team to discuss the new findings. "This symbol ties our case to a previous operation that went cold," he began, projecting the image onto the screen. "The traffickers vanished without a trace, but now they're back, and they're more organized than ever." One of the detectives, Maria, raised a hand. "Do we have any idea how they've managed to stay under the radar for so long?" Liam nodded grimly. "According to the old case files, they use a series of safe houses and constantly move their operations to avoid detection. They're also incredibly secretive. Only a few people at the top know the full scope of their network." Another detective, Jake, spoke up. "If we're dealing with the same group, how do we know they won't just disappear again?" Liam's jaw tightened. "We don't. Which is why we need to act fast and hit them where it hurts." Meanwhile, back at the clinic, Sarah noticed something unusual during one of her routine checks on the rescued puppies. Chance, who had been thriving in recent weeks, seemed agitated. He paced back and forth in his enclosure, whining softly and glancing toward the window. "What's wrong, buddy?" Sarah murmured, kneeling beside him. She reached out to soothe him, but Chance remained restless, his ears perked and his gaze fixed on something outside. Later that evening, as Sarah was locking up, she thought she saw a shadow move across the parking lot. Her heart raced as she quickly scanned the area, but it was empty. Shaking off the unease, she dismissed it as her imagination, until she found a folded piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper of her car. The note was short and chilling. "Stay out of it." The threat sent a ripple of fear through Sarah, but she knew she couldn't back down. The animals in her care depended on her, and she wasn't about to let some faceless criminals intimidate her into silence. She immediately called Liam, who arrived at the clinic within minutes. Liam examined the note, his expression dark. "They're trying to scare us off," he said. "Which means we're getting close." Sarah hesitated. "What if they're watching the clinic? What if the animals aren't safe here?" Liam placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll increase security. I'll have officers stationed outside around the clock. But we can't let them win, Sarah. These animals are evidence and they're counting on us. As the team intensified their efforts, they uncovered another critical piece of the puzzle. Forensic analysis of the ledger revealed coded entries that, when deciphered, pointed to a shipment scheduled to arrive at a private airstrip in a nearby state. The shipment was listed under a shell company with ties to the old trafficking case. Liam and his captain quickly formulated a plan to intercept the shipment. The operation would be risky, requiring precise timing and coordination, but it was their best chance to strike a major blow to the network. On the night of the operation, the team arrived at the airstrip under the cover of darkness. The area was heavily guarded, with security personnel patrolling the perimeter and bright floodlights illuminating the tarmac. Liam's heart pounded as he and his team took their positions, waiting for the signal to move in. As the plane touched down and taxied to a halt, a convoy of unmarked trucks pulled onto the tarmac. Liam watched through binoculars as a group of men began unloading large crates from the plane, each one marked with the same symbol they had seen before. "Stand by," Liam whispered into his radio, his grip tightening on the receiver. "Wait for my signal." The team held their breath as the crates were loaded onto the trucks. Just as the last crate was secured, Liam gave the order. "Go, go, go." The next few minutes were a blur of chaos and adrenaline. Officers swarmed the airstrip, shouting orders as the traffickers scrambled to escape. Several suspects were apprehended, but others managed to flee into the night. As the dust settled, Liam's attention turned to the crates. Inside, they found more puppies, some weak and malnourished, others barking in fear. But what caught Liam's attention was a separate crate, larger than the others, containing an animal he had never seen before. Its fur was an unusual shade of silver, its eyes bright and intelligent. Liam's breath caught in his throat. "What is this?" he muttered. The unusual animal discovered at the airstrip was immediately transported to the clinic, where Sarah and her team awaited its arrival. Liam, still processing the events of the night, followed closely behind, his mind racing with questions. The silver-coated creature didn't resemble any species he had ever encountered, and its piercing gaze seemed to hold a strange intelligence. Once the animal was safely secured in an isolated enclosure, Sarah began her examination. "I've never seen anything like this," she said, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "Its physical features are unique, almost otherworldly. This can't be a naturally occurring species." Liam stood nearby, watching intently. "Do you think it's another result of their experiments?" "It's possible," Sarah replied, carefully checking the animal's vitals. "But I'd need to run tests to know for sure." The animal, despite its unsettling appearance, remained calm, observing its surroundings with an almost human-like awareness. Its behavior only deepened the mystery, leaving both Liam and Sarah with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, at the police station, the suspects apprehended at the airstrip were being interrogated. Maria, one of the lead detectives, focused on a man who appeared to be in charge of the operation. His silence was infuriating, but Maria pressed on, using every tool in her arsenal to break him. "We know what you're doing," she said firmly, placing photos of the crates and the rescued animals on the table in front of him, "and we know about the experiments. This isn't just trafficking, it's something far worse. You think we'll let you get away with it?" The man smirked, his defiance evident. "You don't know half of what's going on," he said cryptically. "And even if you did, you couldn't stop it." Maria's frustration mounted, but she didn't let it show. "Maybe not yet," she replied calmly, "but we're getting closer. And when we do, you'll regret not cooperating." The man's expression faltered for a moment, a flicker of unease crossing his face. Maria noticed it and leaned in. "You're not as untouchable as you think. We've already disrupted one shipment. How many more are you willing to lose before your bosses turn on you?" Her words seemed to hit a nerve, but the man quickly regained his composure. "You'll never find them," he said, leaning back in his chair. "They're always one step ahead." Back at the clinic, Sarah's tests on the silver-coated animal revealed shocking results. "Liam, you need to see this," she said, motioning for him to join her at the lab. On the screen, genetic data scrolled past, highlighting anomalies that Sarah had never encountered before. "This animal's DNA has been manipulated," she explained, "but it's not just a hybrid, It's something entirely new. Someone engineered this creature, likely in a lab, and whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. Liam's jaw tightened. This isn't just about profit anymore. This is about power, control. If they can create something like this, what else are they capable of? Sarah nodded, her expression grim. And why? What's the end game here? Are they trying to build a market for exotic pets, or is this about something bigger? The unanswered questions hung heavily in the air, amplifying the gravity of their discovery. As the days passed, the bond between Liam and Sarah deepened. Their shared dedication to the case and their mutual respect for each other's skills created a strong partnership. Late one night, as they reviewed their findings, Liam opened up about the toll the case was taking on him. "This is the hardest case I've ever worked on," he admitted. "Every time we get closer to the truth, it feels like the stakes get higher, and I can't help but wonder if we're doing enough." Sarah placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're doing everything you can, Liam, and because of you, these animals have a chance. Don't lose sight of that." Her words gave him a renewed sense of purpose, reminding him why he had taken on this fight in the first place. Meanwhile, Chance, the rescued puppy, continued to thrive at the clinic. His playful nature and unwavering loyalty had endeared him to everyone, but it was his connection to the silver-coated animal that surprised them most. Whenever Chance was near the creature's enclosure, his demeanor changed. He became calm, almost protective, as if he recognized the animal as a kindred spirit. Sarah observed their interactions with fascination. "It's like they share a bond," she remarked. "I don't know how, but Chance seems to sense something about this creature." Liam watched the puppy with a mixture of pride and curiosity. "Maybe he knows more than we do," he said with a small smile. "He's been a hero from the start." As the investigation progressed, Liam's team uncovered another critical lead, a hidden facility linked to the trafficking network. Located in a remote area, the facility was rumored to be where the animals were being held before transport. Surveillance revealed heavily armed guards and a constant flow of unmarked vehicles, confirming its importance to the operation. "This is it," Liam said during a briefing. "This is where they're keeping the animals, and possibly where they're conducting their experiments. If we can take this place down, we can dismantle their entire network." The team prepared for what would undoubtedly be their most dangerous mission yet. The risks were high, but the potential reward, the chance to save countless animals and bring the traffickers to justice, was worth it. The plan to raid the hidden facility was finalized. Liam and his team worked tirelessly to map out every detail, knowing they had only one chance to strike effectively. The facility wasn't just a holding ground for animals, it was the epicenter of the trafficking operation and the key to uncovering the full scope of their criminal network. The night of the operation was tense. The team, dressed in tactical gear, moved silently through the dense forest surrounding the facility. Liam led the group, his focus unwavering as they approached their target. Drones buzzed overhead, providing live surveillance of the compound, which was teeming with armed guards. Maria's voice crackled through Liam's earpiece. "We've identified multiple entry points, but the guards are heavily armed. We'll need to move fast and take them by surprise." "Understood," Liam replied. He turned to his team. "Remember, our priority is the animals. Secure the facility, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary." The team split into two groups. One headed to the main building, while the other positioned themselves to cover any potential escape routes. Liam's group reached the main entrance, where they disabled the security cameras and cut through the heavy steel lock. As they entered, the sight before them was both heartbreaking and enraging. Rows of cages lined the walls, each containing frightened and malnourished animals. Some were rare species, while others were the results of genetic experiments, creatures that defied natural explanation. The silver-coated animal from the airstrip was no longer an anomaly. Dozens of similar hybrids were confined within the facility. Liam's chest tightened as he scanned the room. "We need to get them out of here," he said, his voice resolute. As the team began unlocking the cages, a loud alarm suddenly blared, shattering the silence. The guards had discovered the breach. "Fall back to defensive positions," Liam ordered, drawing his weapon. The team quickly formed a perimeter around the animals, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Gunfire erupted outside as the second group engaged the guards. Liam's heart raced as he radioed Maria. "What's the status?" "We've got them pinned down, but they're calling for reinforcements," she replied. "You need to hurry." Inside the facility, the situation grew more desperate. The animals, already terrified, began to panic. The silver-coated creatures thrashed against their cages, their cries echoing through the building. One of Liam's officers, Jake, approached him. "We can't hold them off forever. We need to get the animals out now." Sarah, who had joined the raid to provide medical support, worked tirelessly to calm the animals. She focused on Chance, who had been brought along as a morale booster for the team. The puppy, sensing the tension, stayed close to Sarah, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "It's okay, Chance," Sarah whispered, stroking his fur. "We'll get through this." But as the guards outside closed in, Liam realized they were running out of time. "We need a diversion," he said, glancing at Jake. "If we can draw them away from the building, we might have a chance to evacuate the animals." Jake nodded. "I'll take a few men and create a distraction. You focus on getting the animals to safety." As Jake and his team moved to execute the plan, Liam turned to Sarah. "Can you handle the transport? We need to move fast." Sarah nodded, her determination evident. "I've got this." Working together, they began loading the animals into transport crates, prioritizing the most vulnerable ones. Chance, as if understanding the gravity of the situation, barked softly, urging them on. The distraction worked, drawing most of the guards away from the facility. But as Liam and Sarah neared the end of their task, a group of armed men burst into the room, their weapons raised. "Freeze!" one of the guards barked, his finger on the trigger. The team froze, their hands slowly rising into the air. Liam's mind raced as he searched for a way out. The guards advanced, their expressions cold and unyielding. Suddenly, Chance broke free from Sarah's grasp and darted toward the guards, barking furiously. The men hesitated, their attention momentarily diverted by the small but fearless puppy. Seizing the opportunity, Liam lunged forward, disarming one of the guards with a swift movement. The room erupted into chaos as the team fought to regain control. Sarah shielded the animals, her heart pounding as the conflict unfolded around her. In the midst of the struggle, the silver-coated animal, its cage now unlocked, emerged from the shadows. It moved with surprising agility, its eyes locked on the guards. Without warning, it let out a low guttural growl and lunged at one of the men, knocking him to the ground. The guards, startled by the creature's unexpected aggression, faltered, giving Liam's team the upper hand. Within moments, the guards were subdued, their weapons confiscated. Liam, his breathing heavy, turned to Sarah. "Are you okay?" She nodded, her face pale but resolute. "Let's finish this." As the last of the animals were loaded into the transport vehicles, Liam radioed Maria. "We're clear. Meet us at the rendezvous point." The team moved quickly, leaving the facility behind as dawn broke over the horizon. The air was heavy with the weight of what they had accomplished and what lay ahead. The transport vehicles sped through the early morning haze, carrying the rescued animals to safety. Liam, sitting in the passenger seat of the lead truck, kept a watchful eye on the road ahead. His thoughts were a whirlwind of relief and concern. They had managed to extract the animals, but the operation wasn't over. The trafficking network's reach was vast, and he knew retaliation was a possibility. At the same time, Maria's unit was still handling the aftermath of the raid. Arrests had been made, and evidence collected from the facility was being catalogued. Among the documents was a ledger containing coded entries and names, potentially the key to unraveling the entire network. Maria immediately called Liam. "Liam, we found something big," she said, her voice urgent. "A ledger with names and transactions. This could expose the entire operation." "That's great news," Liam replied, gripping the phone tightly. "Keep it secure. We'll need to decode it as soon as we regroup." Maria hesitated. "There's one more thing. We intercepted a transmission during the raid. They know about the transport and might try to intercept you." Liam's stomach tightened. "Understood. We'll stay alert." The convoy pressed on, the tension inside the vehicles palpable. Sarah, riding in the back with the animals, checked on each one, ensuring they were stable after the ordeal. Chance sat by her side. His ears perked and his body tense as if sensing the looming danger. The silver-coated creature, now named Luna by Sarah, lay quietly in its enclosure, its sharp eyes scanning the surroundings. Luna's calm demeanor was unsettling. It was as if the animal understood the gravity of the situation better than anyone else. As the convoy approached a narrow mountain pass, Liam's worst fears were realized. A black SUV appeared ahead, blocking the road. Moments later, more vehicles emerged from behind, cutting off their escape. Armed men stepped out, their faces obscured by masks. "Stay calm," Liam said into his radio. "Everyone, stay in the vehicles, protect the animals." The lead masked man raised a megaphone. "Step out of the trucks and hand over the cargo. No one needs to get hurt." Liam exchanged a tense glance with the driver. "They're not taking these animals," he said firmly. He grabbed his radio again. "Maria, we need backup. They've intercepted us." "We're on our way," Maria replied. "Hold your position." The standoff intensified as the armed men advanced toward the vehicles. Liam knew they couldn't afford to wait for reinforcements. He stepped out of the truck, his hands raised to show he wasn't armed, and addressed the men directly. "These animals are under our protection," he said, his voice steady despite the danger. "Turn around and leave, or you'll regret it." The leader of the group laughed coldly. "Do you really think you can stop us? Hand them over, or we'll take them by force." Before Liam could respond, a low growl echoed through the air. Luna had escaped its enclosure and now stood between Liam and the armed men, its silver fur glinting in the morning. The creature's presence was both mesmerizing and terrifying, and the men hesitated, their confidence wavering. "What is that thing?" one of the men muttered, his grip on his weapon faltering. Luna let out a sharp, guttural snarl, baring its teeth. The armed men exchanged uneasy glances, their bravado quickly diminishing. Sensing their fear, Liam seized the moment. "This isn't just about the animals," he said, his voice rising. "You're part of something far bigger than you realize. Walk away now, and you might still have a chance to fix the damage you've done." The leader hesitated, his confidence shaken, but before he could respond, the sound of police sirens pierced the air. Maria and her team arrived, their vehicles screeching to a halt as officers poured out, weapons drawn. The traffickers quickly realized they were outmatched. Some dropped their weapons and surrendered, while others fled into the forest. The police apprehended those who remained, securing the area and clearing the roadblock. Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He turned to Luna, who stood motionless, its gaze locked on the fleeing men. "Ah, you saved us," he murmured, his voice filled with gratitude. With the road cleared, the convoy resumed its journey. Maria joined Liam in the lead truck, the ledger from the raid in her hands. "This is the break we needed," she said, showing him the coded entries. "It's going to take time, but we'll crack it." Liam nodded, his focus shifting back to the road. "We've come this far. We'll see it through." As the convoy arrived at the wildlife sanctuary, the animals were unloaded and taken to their new enclosures. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to ensure each one was comfortable and safe. Luna, however, refused to leave Liam's side, its loyalty to him now undeniable. The sanctuary staff, along with Sarah and Liam, held a quiet moment of reflection as they watched the animals explore their new environment. It was a hard-fought victory, but the battle against the trafficking network was far from over. The sanctuary staff worked diligently to settle the rescued animals into their new enclosures. Despite the relative safety of their new environment, the atmosphere remained heavy with unresolved tension. Liam, Maria, and Sarah gathered in the sanctuary's control room, where a large monitor displayed live footage of the animals exploring their surroundings. Luna, the silver-coated creature, paced the edges of its enclosure, its intelligent eyes scanning its surroundings with an almost human-like curiosity. Chance sat outside the enclosure, tail wagging, as if trying to comfort Luna from a distance. Maria set the confiscated ledger on the table, spreading out its pages. "This book contains years of transactions," she said. "Names, locations, payment records, everything we need to dismantle this operation." Liam leaned over the pages, his brow furrowed. "Can't we trace the money trail? If we follow the finances, We might find the ringleader. Maria nodded. That's the plan, but it's going to take time. The codes are sophisticated, and we'll need help from forensic accountants. Sarah, sitting nearby, looked up from her notes. What about the animals? Luna in particular. What if there's more to her than we realize? Dr. Reeves, the sanctuary's head veterinarian, entered the room, carrying a clipboard. I've just finished the preliminary tests on Luna, he announced. Her DNA shows significant genetic anomalies. It's as if she's been engineered. Her physical traits, her resilience, even her behavior. Engineered, Liam repeated, his eyes narrowing. Are you saying someone created her? Dr. Reeves nodded gravely. That's my conclusion. Luna isn't just a product of nature. She's a deliberate experiment. The revelation sent a chill through the room. Liam's jaw tightened. If this trafficking network is involved in genetic engineering, the stakes are even higher than we thought. As they processed this new information, an alert sounded on the sanctuary's security system. One of the perimeter cameras had detected movement. The screen flickered to show a group of unidentified figures approaching the sanctuary under the cover of darkness. Maria's eyes widened. They're here. They've come to take back what we've rescued. Liam sprang into action, issuing orders to the sanctuary staff. Secure the animals. Lock down the enclosures. Maria, contact the local authorities. We can't let them get anywhere near Luna or the others. The sanctuary transformed into a fortress as staff members bolted gates and reinforced enclosures. Liam and Maria armed themselves with tranquilizer guns, prepared to defend the sanctuary if necessary. Sarah stayed with the animals, her presence calming them despite the rising tension. Luna, sensing the danger, began to grow restless. Her pacing grew more frantic, her sharp eyes darting toward the perimeter where the intruders were approaching. Chance, ever loyal, stood by her side, his small frame bristling with determination. The intruders breached the outer gate, their intentions clear as they moved swiftly toward Luna's enclosure. Liam and Maria intercepted them, their tranquilizer guns raised. "Stop right there," Liam commanded, his voice firm. "This is a protected sanctuary. You're trespassing on private property." The leader of the group, a tall man with a cold demeanor, stepped forward. "We're here for what's ours," he said, his tone dripping with arrogance. "Step aside and no one gets hurt." "You've got it wrong," Liam replied, his grip tightening on his weapon. "These animals are under our protection now. You're not taking them anywhere." The standoff escalated as the intruders advanced, ignoring Liam's warnings. Just as the tension reached its breaking point, Luna let out a fierce, guttural growl that echoed through the sanctuary. The sound was both a warning and a declaration of defiance. Luna's display of power gave the intruders pause, their confidence faltering. One of them muttered, "What kind of creature is that?" Seizing the moment, Liam fired a tranquilizer dart at the leader, striking him in the shoulder. The man staggered, but remained standing, his expression twisting into a snarl. "You'll regret that," he hissed. Before he could retaliate, the sound of police sirens filled the air. Maria's call for backup had been answered, and law enforcement officers swarmed the sanctuary, surrounding the intruders and cutting off their escape. The confrontation ended swiftly, as the intruders were apprehended and escorted away in handcuffs. Liam, Maria, and the sanctuary staff watched as the threat was neutralized, a collective sigh of relief sweeping through the group. Back at Luna's enclosure, the silver-coated creature had calmed, her intelligent eyes watching the scene unfold. Liam approached the enclosure, crouching down to meet her gaze. "You saved us again," he said softly. "Thank you." Luna tilted her head, her eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that sent a shiver down Liam's spine. Chance barked happily, wagging his tail as if echoing Liam's gratitude. As the police escorted the intruders away, Maria approached Liam. "We've got everything we need to take this network down," she said, holding up the ledger. "This is just the beginning." Liam nodded, his resolve stronger than ever. "They've underestimated us, but we're not stopping until this entire operation is dismantled." The sanctuary staff began to relax as the immediate danger passed. Sarah joined Liam and Maria, her face lighting up with a tired but genuine smile. "We did it," she said. "Luna and the others are safe." "For now," Liam replied, glancing at Luna. But this fight isn't over. As the first rays of dawn broke over the sanctuary, a sense of calm settled after the chaotic night. The staff worked to repair minor damages caused during the intrusion, while the rescued animals began to adapt to their new environment. However, in the control room, the atmosphere remained charged with anticipation. Liam, Maria, and Sarah huddled over the ledger, decoding the names and transactions that pointed to the vast web of the trafficking network. Each entry revealed horrifying details: exotic animals traded across borders, secret facilities hidden in remote locations, and names of powerful individuals complicit in the operation. Meanwhile, Luna remained the center of attention. The silver-coated creature, now fully alert and active, seemed to sense that the worst had passed. She moved gracefully within her enclosure, her keen eyes observing everything around her. Chance stayed close, wagging his tail as if to reassure her that she was safe. Liam stepped out of the control room, taking a moment to check on Luna. As he approached the enclosure, Luna came forward, her piercing gaze locking onto his. She pressed her head against the fence, a gesture of trust that left Liam momentarily speechless. "You're incredible. You know that," he said softly, reaching out to gently touch her head through the bars. "We're going to make sure no one ever hurts you again." Back in the control room, Maria's phone buzzed with a message from the authorities. "They've identified the ringleader," she announced, her tone both triumphant and serious. "It's a high-ranking official in a neighboring country. This goes deeper than we thought." Liam returned just in time to hear the news. "What's our next move?" he asked. "We'll coordinate with international agencies to take him down," Maria replied. "But we need to act fast. If he gets wind of this, he'll disappear." As the team formulated their plan, Dr. Reeves entered with new findings about Luna. "We've completed her genetic analysis," he began, his voice tinged with awe. "She's not just a rare species. Luna's DNA contains markers of deliberate genetic engineering, but there's more. She carries traits from multiple predator species. Whoever created her was attempting something unprecedented." The revelation hit the team like a thunderbolt. Luna wasn't just an ordinary rescue. She was evidence of illegal experimentation with potentially global implications. While the team processed this information, a commotion erupted outside. One of the sanctuary workers rushed in, breathless. "You need to see this." Liam and Maria hurried to the observation deck, where a crowd of reporters and cameras had gathered at the sanctuary gates. The news of the raid and the discovery of Luna had leaked, and the world was now watching. "We can't hide this anymore," Maria said. "We need to control the narrative." Realizing the importance of transparency, Liam decided to hold a press conference. The sanctuary staff quickly set up a makeshift podium, and within an hour, journalists from across the region were seated, ready to hear the story. Liam stepped forward, his nerves visible, but his resolve unshaken. "Last night, we faced a direct threat to the safety of this sanctuary and the animals we've sworn to protect," he began. "But thanks to the bravery of this team and the incredible bond we've formed with these creatures, we overcame it." He gestured toward Luna's enclosure, where the silver-coated animal stood tall, her presence commanding respect. "This is Luna," he continued. "She's not just a symbol of what we're fighting for. She's living proof of the length some will go to exploit and harm the natural world." Maria took the stage next, holding up the ledger. "This document contains the names and operations of an international trafficking ring. We're working with authorities to dismantle it and bring those responsible to justice. But we need your help, your voices, your support, to ensure that these crimes are exposed and never repeated." The crowd erupted into applause, their initial skepticism replaced by admiration and determination. The press conference turned the tide of public opinion, rallying support for the sanctuary and its mission. As the journalists dispersed, Luna let out a low, melodic growl that sounded almost like a purr. It was a sound of contentment, a signal that she too understood that the tide had turned in her favor. That evening, Liam, Maria, and Sarah gathered by Luna's enclosure. Chance sat at their feet, his tail wagging as he watched his human and animal companions. "We've achieved something incredible," Sarah said, her voice tinged with emotion. "But there's still so much work to do." Liam nodded. "This is just the beginning. Luna's story is a wake-up call for all of us. As the stars filled the night sky, Liam stood alone by Luna's enclosure, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Luna approached the fence, her silver fur glowing in the moonlight. Liam reached out, and for the first time, Luna gently pressed her nose against his hand. In that moment, man and creature shared a bond that transcended words, a mutual understanding of resilience, trust, and the fight for a better world. As the days turned into weeks, the sanctuary became a symbol of hope and resilience. The press conference had garnered global attention, drawing donations, volunteers, and even high-profile supporters to the cause. Luna's story, along with the revelations about the trafficking network, became a rallying cry for wildlife conservation efforts worldwide. Liam, Maria, and Sarah dedicated themselves to ensuring the sanctuary became a haven, not only for rescued animals, but also for education and advocacy. Schools and community groups visited regularly, learning about the importance of protecting endangered species and combating illegal wildlife trade. Luna, with her unique story and majestic presence, became the face of the sanctuary's mission. "She's inspiring people in ways we never imagined," Sarah said one day as they watched Luna from the observation deck. "Her story isn't just about survival, it's about the bonds we can form with the natural world." Luna, now fully acclimated to her new home, thrived under the care of the sanctuary staff. She exhibited behaviors that continued to astonish the team: her intelligence, her ability to communicate through subtle gestures, and her protective instincts toward the other animals, especially Chance. The bond between the silver-coated creature and the small dog had grown into something extraordinary, a symbol of interspecies friendship that captured hearts everywhere. Chance often led visitors to Luna's enclosure, wagging his tail proudly as if introducing them to his best friend. The sight of the two together never failed to bring smiles and tears to those who witnessed it. Meanwhile, the fight against the trafficking network gained momentum. The ledger Maria had recovered proved instrumental in identifying key figures and operations. Authorities conducted coordinated raids across multiple countries, rescuing countless animals and dismantling the infrastructure of the illegal trade. Liam and Maria were invited to speak at international wildlife conservation conferences, sharing their experiences and calling for stronger measures to protect vulnerable species. They used the spotlight to emphasize the importance of grassroots efforts, highlighting how individuals and small teams could make a difference. Luna's story taught us that even in the darkest circumstances, there's hope, Liam said during one keynote speech. And that hope starts with all of us, choosing to protect, to fight, and to care. Back at the sanctuary, life settled into a fulfilling rhythm. Liam, who had always been driven by a sense of duty, found a deeper purpose in his work. Maria, whose sharp mind and relentless determination had cracked the trafficking case, became a sought-after consultant for wildlife protection agencies. Sarah, whose gentle touch and empathy bridged the gap between humans and animals, found joy in every small victory at the sanctuary. One crisp autumn morning, Liam stood by Luna's enclosure, reflecting on how far they had come. Luna approached him, her silver fur glinting in the sunlight. She let out a soft, low growl, a sound Liam had come to recognize as her way of expressing contentment. "You've changed everything," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "not just for us, but for so many others. You're a miracle, Luna." The sanctuary continued to grow thanks to the support it had received. New enclosures were built, allowing them to rescue and rehabilitate even more animals. The facility also became a hub for scientific research, with experts studying Luna and her unique genetic traits to better understand how to protect other rare and endangered species. Luna's mysterious origins remained a topic of fascination, while Dr. Reeves and Dr. Vargas continued their investigations. They agreed that her presence was a reminder of humanity's responsibility to safeguard the natural world. The genetic experiments that had created her were a stark warning about the consequences of tampering with nature. But Luna herself was a testament to the resilience and beauty of life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sanctuary in a warm golden light, Liam, Maria, and Sarah gathered by Luna's enclosure. Chance sat at their feet, wagging his tail as he watched his human and animal companions. "This isn't just a sanctuary," Maria said, her voice filled with emotion. "It's a second chance for all of us." Liam nodded, his eyes on Luna. "She's taught us so much about courage, trust, and the power of connection. I think we've learned as much from her as she has from us." As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Liam turned to Maria and Sarah. "We've come a long way, but there's still so much to do. Are you ready for the next chapter?" Maria smiled. "Always," Sarah added. "With Luna and Chance by our side, I think we can handle anything." The sanctuary stood as a beacon of hope, its mission clear and its impact undeniable. Luna and Chance, symbols of resilience and friendship, continued to inspire all who visited. Their story, born from hardship and danger, had become a testament to the strength of the human-animal bond and the power of collective action. As Liam, Maria, and Sarah walked away from Luna's enclosure, the silver-coated creature watched them with a gaze that seemed almost knowing. She let out a soft, melodic growl, as if bidding them good night. Chance barked in response, his tail wagging furiously. Together, they had faced the unthinkable and emerged stronger. Their journey wasn't over, but they were ready, united by a shared purpose and the unbreakable bonds they had formed along the way. Did Luna's story move you as much as it moved us? What would you have done if faced with such an extraordinary creature and situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with others. Together, we can make a difference in protecting our planet's incredible wildlife. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.